Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Small Business Show. I'm your host, Swire Ho, the promo guy. Today, my guest is Dr. Angela Mulrooney. She's the director of Unleashing Influence Inc. She has a really interesting background. So, some of the highlights is she actually trained study to become a dentist, work as a dentist, but now she's retired and turned a personal branding expert. She's also a good dancer. And what is most intriguing I found on her LinkedIn website is she's known as the arsonist. She handles. She will hand you the match to burn down what is holding you back in building your personal brand. Welcome to the show, Angela.
Thank you for having me, Spire. I appreciate it.
Can you please tie all this in together for me for your journey and how did you train as a dentist and now you become a public speaker and also a personal branding expert?
For sure. So I wanted to be a dentist since I was 2. So when I became a dentist, I thought that was it. I thought that was what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I built a practice that was catering to phobic patients. So that was one of the first brands that I ended up building. Unfortunately, I got injured. And so after building exactly what I wanted, having the exact team in place, then my dream kind of went up in smoke, burned to the ground, and I had to figure out how to reinvent myself. So I kept the practice for a couple of years, and then when the oil crisis happened in 2015, I was in Calgary. That's where my practice was, and our economy got decimated. So I decided it was time to pass on the dream to someone else, and I sold my practice. I took the next year away to return full-time to professional dancing and built Unleash Dance Company. And during that time, I had a bit of enlightenment as to maybe why I went through what I went through with losing my ability to practice, going through some of the challenges in practice. And so I decided, instead of just letting that be my journey, I want to reach back and help dentists who could learn from what I had learned and avoid some of those pitfalls so they could move forward more quickly. So I built my coaching company called Unleashing Dentistry's Potential. Because I wanted to not spend a ton of money on advertising, I decided to go completely organic with my marketing and took to LinkedIn and started talking about what I knew about branding and niching and dentistry. And I started to develop quite a large following. I went from 200 to 12,000 dental industry followers in a year. And so people started to go, how did you do that? Can you do that for me? So I started to experiment with a few of my friends who I knew would be forgiving if I didn't quite get it right. And what happened was I was able to explode their following. So I decided to open Unleashing Influence, which was a full-on social media agency. We went from 2.5 to 14 full-time team members in the first 10 months of the pandemic. And then I decided to move to Nicaragua and leave Calgary behind. And once I got here, I started to realize, what have I done with my life? I had all these moving pieces. I had all these businesses that were working really well, but they were pulling me in so many different directions. So I decided to really pick a lane, get concentrated and become masterful at one thing and pull all my talents together. So I sold off the dance company. I sold off the dental coaching company. I sold off the agency part of Unleashing Influence and just niched into what I do with clients, which is teaching media mastery, teaching them how to use physicality on camera, teaching them how to use their brand archetype to support everything that they're doing so that they can build a personal brand on LinkedIn that is congruent, it makes sense to the public, and it's very niched into exactly what their expertise is.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, sir, for sharing. That's a truly interesting journey. I think this is the question that I personally have, and also I think a lot of small business listener will have. Can you tell us more about the difference between personal branding and branding of a company? And then a lot of times when you're a smaller business, you are the face of your company. So when it comes to branding, should we think about ourselves, personal branding first, or should we think about branding of the company? And how would you advise us to do that?
Well, there's both. So the personal branding side is really the human side of the company. It's showing the thought leadership behind why the organization exists. So I do work with large companies where they've got a C-suite where they want to develop out the personal brands of the C-suite. And so they have different archetypes. They have different ways of interacting with the world than the overarching company is. So we have to find a way to marry that so that they're representing the company while they're representing themselves. With the second scenario that you mentioned, which is like those small business owners where they are the company, their personal brand represents them, the human side, while still representing their company, but they tend to be a little bit more intertwined because if they're the only one working in it, or they're the only one doing the sales or the major client-facing work, then they are more intertwined with the overall brand. So there can be a little bit less difference between those two things. But when they're developing their personal brand, either scenario, what you're trying to do is showcase your personality, your expertise, your passion for why you're doing what you're doing, and showcasing that in a way that is easy for people to understand. And what I find is with most professionals is they're really talented. So they have so many different things that they can be doing. That's what I was doing before I narrowed down to just unleashing influence. But it can be really hard to create that influential brand because they tend to, they want to do everything for their clients. They want to put out everything that they could possibly do. And all they do is confuse the marketplace.
I think one of the follow-up questions that I would ask is, there are some people that are naturally, more good looking, I would say. They're more photogenic, right? When we think about, personal branding, we think about someone looks really nice, come up really successful, very confident, and they talk well, right? They know how to use their voice, so people are drawn to their conversation. However, there are also some of us that are really good at what we do. At least we think we are good at what we do, but then we might not be able to communicate or like to show ourselves in a branding way to put in another word, put ourselves out there. So how would you kind of encourage us for us being more introverts to build our brands for ourselves?
Great question. So introverts are my specialty because that is what I naturally am. If you met me when I was a practicing dentist, you wouldn't recognize me today. I was the one who hid in the corner and didn't want to be seen. So I totally understand that. And what happens is we need to change our mindset as to why we're doing the content. And I find introverts, they have this thought in their head that if they're putting out content, then they're potentially going to come across as narcissistic, which is absolutely not what they want to do. But if we can think about our content and building our personal brand as a way to serve our clients, to serve the world, to change the world with what we know, then it becomes something that we almost have an obligation to do, because we all have something that we can contribute. And who are we to choose not to share our talent with the world? And it is one of the best ways that you can help people who aren't your clients. You can help your existing clients. You can be giving a lot of information and helping people to see how they can help themselves in between when you actually have your touch points with them. So it becomes a client serving operation, not a narcissistic undertaking.
Okay, that's some good point. But sometimes I think, there are people that I come in contact with, that I really try to encourage, because they really have talents. And I say, you got to tell other people and, show that, you have such a talent, and, then people will take notice and it's going to help you. But really, a lot of time they're shy, right? Or they might not know how in the technology standpoint. What are some other essential key points that you would suggest for personal branding?
Well, that's one of the things that I work with people on is, yes, you need to get out there. So how do you do it? I'll help you. So teaching them how to have skills on camera so that they're not stuck in perfectionist mode, trying to be perfect, trying to, get in their head and think about how they're going to be coming across and letting all these gremlins come out on their shoulder. We need to, I think once you understand why you're doing what you're doing, where you're trying to go, that becomes the barrier that is removed to getting on content. Then you need to learn the skills. And none of us were competent professionals before we went and got our training. So we have the ability to learn anything that we want to learn. And it is becoming imperative to actually get out there and showcase who you are, what you do in a dimensional way. Showcasing photos, you can have anyone take great photos or Photoshop you to look perfect, but appearing on camera and being able to speak about what you do in a coherent way, in a congruent way that fits in with everything else that you put out there, including your sales calls, including your other marketing, is a talent that allows people to get to know you. They get to feel like they actually know you before they meet you. And if you are consistently putting stuff out there, you develop this reputation before you even arrive at the call. And you'll have people go, oh my gosh, I heard from so-and-so that you're amazing at this, and I saw your content. I'm so excited to be here. And it's really quite interesting because you'll have people refer you who have never met you, they've never had a conversation with you, but because they've been following your content, they feel like they know you and they feel comfortable actually referring you clients. So it is a massive business builder, and it is completely learnable. Learning how to be visually stimulating, learning how to use your voice, learning how to use your space is all completely learnable. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there, get a little uncomfortable, and start the process.
I think that's an interesting concept, especially for the past 2 years with the pandemic. We aren't doing as many face to face as we wanted to, and I felt like I watch YouTube, right? I consume other media. I felt like the host that I'm most resonated with. I don't know them in person, but I felt that I know him every day because I watch him every day for he put like 2 hours of content every day, so like I watch him every single day, so I know him as a person. So and then he also have other I would say commercial interests, right? He's trying to sell a certain product that people will respond better to. Think about that example, and you did touch on LinkedIn. I come to the conclusion, I think in the past year or so, that I can't do business with everybody, but by putting my face out there, with the video that I'm doing a podcast, and people can listen to my voice, and then they will judge. Either you like it or not, they're gonna judge, right? Do I like this person or do I not like this person? Maybe they will say I will never work with him. Like I don't like the way he sounds, and that's fine, But then there are some of them that he does make a point there. So I think that's the point that I think I would encourage everyone. You don't think of you have to please everyone. There's is a big world out there. By like Angela, like you said, by putting yourself out there, by putting the right content and showcase your expertise, then there are some follower listeners that are going to be drawn to your energy, your expression, or your passion, right, for the particular work that you do. And then you got people actually seek out to you before you even reach out.
Yes, and it's so true. And we get so caught up in wanting to be likable, right? It's almost like the popularity contest of high school. We want everyone to like us. And you know what? There's going to be people that are on our schedule that we see them and we go, ugh, why do I have to deal with that person today? So why would you try to attract everyone? Because you're going to have a mix of those people that you don't even like. So it's better to polarize your audience and develop the lovers and the haters, and you want to put the attention on the people who love you. Give them what they need. Interact with them. Get them on the sales calls. And those ones that you don't really like, you don't need to work with them. As you said, there's so many people out there. There's so much opportunity, and you will find the right people who love what you're doing and lean into that and go after helping them instead of trying to serve everyone and be likable by everyone.
Yeah. And speaking about that, and you did mention LinkedIn, I do wanted to get your take on LinkedIn. So you mentioned that you can help clients to use LinkedIn to stand apart. What are some of the strategy that you can share with all of us on the show?
So one of the things is even as simple as just filling out your whole profile. There are so many people, they don't even have a headshot. They haven't gone through, and there's little pencils in every corner of each section that you can fill out on LinkedIn. Go and find every pencil, fill out every section. And we tend to still think that LinkedIn is this old job search platform. It is not. So when it comes to your about section, this isn't your resume cover letter where you're listing all your technical skills. This is your time to tell your story, to humanize who you are on the platform. The resume part of it fits in the lower part, in the experience section. So you can go back to your resume liking ways and fill it out like that. But the about section, you need to tell your story. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why did you start on that path? And where are you trying to go? And then from there, get out and start reaching out to the people that you want to be connected with and have a conversation. So we still get impressed that, someone has 100,000 followers. Well, you're not going to be able to serve 100,000 clients. So why not get really niched into who exactly you want to work with? Who are those people you love? And go and find those people. Make an avatar of who you want to go after. Geographic location, professional designation, maybe schools, maybe timeline of when they finish school, so that you are building your audience of who is likely to like you because you already have clients who are like them. And strike up actual conversations. Don't just hit them over the head with a pitch. That is the most, people just go, ugh, delete when they get a message like that. So we need to actually start a real conversation. And it can be as simple as, how is everything going? Not, hey, this is what I do. I think I'd be your perfect solution to a problem that I don't even know you have. And so please book on my calendar link. It doesn't work. People want connection. So again, using LinkedIn, fill out your profile completely, tell your about section through your human story, and actually connect with people. And of course, put some content out there.
Yeah, I agree. There are people who use email and on LinkedIn, just wanted to have a chat with me. And I love networking. So I mostly, connect with everybody that reach out. But then as soon as they connected with me and they start selling me and, all these things that I know I have no use, and they didn't read my profile to see kind of the work that I do. But then there are those who actually study and take the time, and because we all appreciate that people took the time to learn about what we do. We all proud of our work. So they actually ask me things that I have pointed out in my profile. So I'm interested, right, to talk about my interests and hobbies. So we got into it a little bit, and then they asked, should we connect to have a conversation to talk business? That to me, I'll be more willing than if you just connect with me and sell me what you have, and I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else do you think we can use LinkedIn? You said, it's not because of building your audience. So would you go on a detailed search for your target audience? And, I know you touch on target audience. That's exactly what I like to do. And should we, for those of us who might be started out in the personal branding journey, should we mimic what other people in our industry are doing? Or would you suggest that we be ourselves and put our content out there and let people to discover us? Like where would you suggest, people to get started?
So in many industries, there are governing bodies who are regulating what you can put out there. So if you are in one of those industries, obviously you need to follow the rules, but don't do what everyone else is doing. It's okay to get inspiration from watching what other people are doing, but you got to find your own path with it. And you have to bring your personality, you have to bring your passion, you have to bring your expertise so that you can stand out. Because if you try to mimic everyone else, then you're going to be one of a million. And they're not going to know which of those million to pick. Whereas if you stand out and you are yourself, you highlight exactly what you feel, you share your values, and you allow yourself to let your guard down, get off your pedestal of professionalism and step down and just be a human being, then the right people are going to start finding you. And it's really telling people to be themselves is one of the hardest pieces of advice for people to take, because, if you have this front up of perfectionism or whatever you're putting out there that you're comfortable having out there to be judged, and then you break that down and it's the real you being put out there to be judged, if you get any hate mail, which does happen on LinkedIn, it can be really hard to take, because then they're judging the real you. And that's where a lot of people end up having this front, whether it's professionalism, whether it's perfectionism, whether it's just, this mask that I have to wear to get comfortable. We really need to break those barriers down and just step in and own exactly who we are, exactly where we are, and share that with the world.
Yeah, sometimes it does get hard, especially if this is something that you're really passionate for, and people start, debating, sometimes arguing with you. So it's sometimes it's hard. But then I want to encourage everyone, like if you think that you're weird, you're not, good looking, whatever that might be, like use myself as an example. That's me going out there. Maybe there is someone who are connected to, people who have no hair, that that might be the core branding, or just the way that people sound, or the way that you look. Just to point out, if you're really weird or if you're really obscure, there's actually, you can grow a lot of following, because the world is picking up. Some people actually look out for a niche, right, looking for something that they thought no one would like, that hobby or interest that I have. But then if they found someone is actually putting out those quality, or they're similar look and feel to what you have in mind, then you become the leader, the thought leadership that they seek out for.
For sure. And a lot of people they're worried about being judged on their weirdness, on how they look. LinkedIn is not an aesthetic platform. It's not Instagram, where there's so much fakeness about how people look. They've altered so many things. LinkedIn, people are there to share their expertise. So you're being judged on your expertise, not on your appearance. Yes, you want to look the part, but just because you don't have a perfectly symmetrical face or your voice isn't perfect, don't let that stop you, because people are there to seek out the knowledge that you have to share.
Okay, right. So I think that brings to the most important question I think that I have is, after we do the personal branding and all the planning that we do, how can we make ourselves the only choice for our potential clients? So is there a pathway to do that, or what would you recommend?
What I recommend is really figure out what your niche is. Figure out what you are most passionate about, what you are most masterful about. So don't do like I did and build all these different companies and then expect people to understand who you are. Figure out what that niche is, because especially as high-level professionals, we get worried that we're going to get bored. Well, you're only going to get bored if you let yourself get bored. Even within one path, there's so many ways to elevate your education. There's so many ways to keep yourself stimulated and growing, but it allows you to be very understandable in that marketplace. And when you have that one skill that they really, really need, and you've put it out there in a way that is understandable, so your content isn't talking above their head with technical jargon, you're getting down to the level of your audience and speaking to them the way that they would speak to you and ask you questions, and you're answering those questions with your content. You're not doing an infomercial about how amazing your product is. You're actually answering the questions that you hear on a regular basis. That's where you're really going to start to stand out, because people go, oh, yeah, I had that question. Oh, that story I relate to. Oh, that person seems like my kind of person that I would want to hang out with. And people are attracted to, they want to be working with the best person. They want to be working with a person that has shared values, and they want to work with someone who they think is a good human being. And if you're just hiding behind corporate professionalism, none of those things shine through. And so you become, big fish in a big sea. We want to be a big fish in a little sea, where we have really narrowed into what we are great at and showcase that. And the more you can niche, the more you can get comfortable narrowing your focus and putting your eggs more in one basket. That is one of the best ways to become that only choice for your clients.
I think you're right. I'm thinking about all the media content that I assume, and how I learn about a new product. For example, sometimes the company will put together sometimes a big budget, right, a big production to showcase the product. I think it's me. I tune that out completely, really. And then, but sometimes I will see other people's, or maybe a representative within their company, to do like a more humanized video to talk about, maybe some of the feature or some of the highlight of why that product should be there. Then I start listening because I like their personality. Give you a weird kind of example. My daughter is following two guys. They are professional violinists. They play violin, and they normally play music. But then one episode, they actually they like drink boba. They actually bought 50 cups of boba from all different companies. They're grading them because they love drinking boba. And it's funny, it's weird. They make weird faces and talk about how the drink tastes like. So we actually together, we watch it for like 40 minutes. So it's just two guys drinking boba, and they talk, just randomly. So think about, if you're comfortable with that format, I think that could be very valuable. But would you suggest the only way to build branding is through videos and to be speaking? Like, are there other ways that you would suggest us to build the brands on?
Absolutely. Podcasting is one of the great ways to showcase your knowledge in ways that are in a dynamic setting. So typically a podcast doesn't go bang, 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 exactly as we had planned. There's a conversation happening. And so you can see how someone ebbs and flows. So that's really quite attractive to a lot of people, to get to know the person behind the brand. And writing is important as well. Now, sometimes when we're writing, we go back to, writing essays in high school and university. And so we think they have to be perfect. If you can speak in a conversational voice that showcases, if someone was having a conversation with you, this is how they would hear you speak. Try and bring that voice into your articles. Even doing polls, people love interacting on polls, and you can glean a lot of information. You can do a lot of research on LinkedIn just by doing polls to find out where people are at, what they're thinking about, what they want. And that's a great way to interact with people, because people love weighing in on things. So any way you can interact is a good thing. Video I like because it allows people to see who you are, so that they're prepared for who you are when they actually get on a Zoom call, they get into a meeting with you, they see you at the mall, whatever it is. So they get that multi-dimensional view of you. So I do think video is essential, and it's becoming more preferred by the different algorithms. So that's important as well. But if you're not comfortable there, you can start putting out your thought leadership in different ways that will at least get you starting to package what you do in a way and think about it in a way that starts to make sense. And you can test and measure. There's so many analytics on LinkedIn as well to see, you know, are the right people seeing it? Are they in the right profession? Are they coming from the right geographic area that I want to target? And so you can do a bunch of really laying the foundation there and getting comfortable before you step on video.
Okay, we have a question here from Vince. Yes, he actually has a question for you, Angela. Have you tried other social audio, for example, like Twitter Spaces or Clubhouse? Do you think those are another areas that we can grow our brands if we have a good voice that we can speak very nicely?
Yes, absolutely. Those are great platforms as well. I started using Clubhouse, and then honestly, my life got really busy. And so I had to go in a more consistent way that I could just have my life scheduled because my client load was really heavy. But if you're trying to get out there and network and get seen, going on Clubhouse, getting pulled up on stage to talk about different topics is an amazing thing that you can be doing. But you got to make sure that you capitalize on what you did there. Go in and look at who is in the audience. If you can find them on LinkedIn or other platforms that you build your brand on, go and do that, so that it's not just they saw you for that 30 minutes or 60 minutes and then you were gone and they moved on to something else and forgot about you. Make sure you're actually building that relationship after the fact so that they get to connect with you beyond just when they witnessed you on one of those platforms.
I think that's another way to create a touch point, right? When we're in marketing, we're talking about you have to do at least 7 touch points for a person to, take you seriously. So these are additional touch points that showcase that you are the expert. So maybe on LinkedIn we say we are the expert in our field, right? That's one. People see that. Or now they're going to Clubhouse or other places that they go, and they also see you there, talking about your expertise. Then now you are becoming more of the expert in their mind, because the more places that they see, if they see a magazine article, you are talking about the exact same thing. So then you become the go-to expert in their mind for that particular industry. So it does is to be an advantage to be out there more, to be on different platforms, different publication media. It's just in terms of what you think and plan for your personal branding journey.
Yeah, and make sure you know where your audience is, right? For me, I've dabbled with Facebook, I dabbled with Instagram, I dabbled with Clubhouse, and for me, LinkedIn over and over again is 100% what feeds my business. So I could spend extra time on those other platforms, or I could take that time I was allotting to that and put a concerted effort into the platform that I know works for me. And so when you're starting, you may be trying a few different platforms, but research your existing clients. Where do they exist? If they're playing on Twitter, go play on Twitter. If they're playing on LinkedIn, go on LinkedIn. If they're on Clubhouse, go on Clubhouse. But I find people, again, they spread themselves too thin. It's like having too many offerings. You have too many mediums, you're eventually going to get fatigued and you're not going to know what's actually working. And so I find it's better to pick 1, maybe 2, and focus on those and do a really good job. Understand those mediums that you're using and maximize your time on them before you go too broad. Because most of us don't have a full media team behind us trying to push out our content. Most people are trying to do it themselves. And so there's only so many hours in a day that you can be doing that without neglecting your other work. And creating content for different platforms as well is time consuming because you have to shape them in different ways for the different algorithms.
I like that, and I'm guilty for going on too many platforms at the same time, or I try to, right? But then knowing what I started to develop a habit for when people actually call me and want to work with me. I ask them, how did you find out about us? What type of social media, if they like to share, right? Do you mostly consume? So I could start taking my notes, filter down the list. If I know that, like you said, all of them are on LinkedIn, then I will focus more on my effort on LinkedIn. Or we just discover Pinterest, right? People actually like to see the product that we have in a collection, in a folder, so they come back to it later. So we actually try to put more effort in that just by listening to our customer. And really, the best way to find your target audience is to talk to your now paying customer. What do they like about you? What I think sometimes you have to throw out that question too. Is there anything that they would like to change about what you do? And then be able to listen. And if you can change on it. People like to people will feel good when they know that their feedback is being listened to, because a lot of big companies out there, you can complain, right? They send you to a different department, they write you a script that really sounds nice, but you know that at the end they're not going to change. But if you feel like your feedback, people are listening to it, they actually change on it, then that's how you create a loyalty customer for life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So Angela, I know that we could go on for personal branding for the next 2 hours, but for the sake of time and for people who are interested in finding out more about your work, what would be a best way to reach out to you?
You can either reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me as Dr. Angela Mulrooney, or send me an email at info@unleashinginfluence.com.
Thank you so much for your information. I learned a lot today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Swire.